Today on TOKKANTE, I'm sharing first-hand insider info directly from Rolex mothership in Geneva headquarters. This is gonna be a juicy one. Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Ben. So first, where did I get this information? What I can tell you is that this is not hearsay. I did not read this on a forum or in an article somewhere. This is not someone who has a friend who has a friend who has a friend who told me this. No, this is first-hand info that I got directly from the person who used to be a manager at the Rolex headquarters in Geneva. So a bit about me first. I used to be an executive search recruiter before for the luxury industry. So, you know, I'm used to interviewing candidates who were executive level up to CEO level within the luxury industry sector. And obviously, you know, they're going to share some insider info with me, which I have to keep confidential. Now, this person left Rolex already, so this is why I feel now I am at liberty to share the information with you. So obviously I can't share with you who this person is, but what I can do is share the following. So one, he or she was a manager level position at HQ, in Geneva. Number two is that he or she was in a buying function and also project and product development, which is very important to get insider info. And the third point is that he or she is no longer with Rolex now. How I got this information is during an interview process in Hong Kong. This person at the time was still employed with Rolex but was traveling and looking for a new opportunity. So I got this face-to-face during a meeting for about an hour and a half that we talked about his or her career plans and also what I could get out of him or her about Rolex. So number one, is everything really in-house at Rolex? We often hear that everything Rolex does is in-house. Well, I can tell you that no, it's not. Some of it you may actually know and some of it may surprise you. What is not in-house is the hands, the dial indices, and some of the crowns. Actually, the stainless steel crowns are not made in-house. They are outsourced. And this is for cost consideration, I was told. The second thing is the polishing. The polishing of all stainless steel models at Rolex are actually outsourced and polished by a third-party vendor and delivered to Rolex already polished. What is done in-house is the polishing of all gold models. This is still done by Rolex. And the person did not share actually what happened with the two-tone pieces. I don't know whether those are in-house or outsourced. Number two, the big question, is Rolex restricting output? So I asked about that and I was assured that no, Rolex is not restricting output, but this is based on the restriction from their third-party vendors. Rolex itself could increase output and production of their models, but they are limited by the production of the third-party vendors for what I mentioned before, for the hands, for the dial indices, for the crowns, and for the stainless steel polishing, especially on stainless steel models. So then I asked, well, then why doesn't Rolex just outright buy those third-party vendors, because they certainly have the cash to do so, and once they are in-house, they could increase the production. And then I was told that this would not be cost-effective. They have studied this option, and for cost consideration, this is not cost-effective. So this is why actually production is limited. The third insider info is about special dials, specifically the stone and meteorite dials. So I was told that the stone dials are delivered to Rolex by a third-party vendor, and the stone ones, such as, for example, malachite, they are delivered completely finished. They are already cut, they are already polished, the holes for the indices are already punched, so basically they just have to be installed in the case and the hands put in and the indices, but they are all done. For the meteorite dial, it's a bit different. They are delivered to Rolex already sliced and already with the holes in them, but Rolex will complete the oxidization process and the finishing process, which is why the meteorite dials from Rolex look like nothing else. Some will say that the meteorite dials from Rolex look the best in the industry, and they do have a kind of a special look to them. This is because Rolex finishes them in-house. So I was told that one of the frustrations with the gemstone and special dial at Rolex is that they would like to do actually more handmade special dials, but the management at Rolex is looking in the other direction, and they are always constantly pushing for more automated industrialization. Number four, the CEO's involvement on design choices. So I was told that specifically all stone dials are chosen and approved by the CEO Jean-Frédéric Dufour. At Rolex there is also a creative director but my candidate told me that the creative director actually often fights with the CEO on specific design choices, and specifically for the stone dials, the last word goes with the CEO. And then another interesting thing is that Mr. Dufour was actually the one personally responsible for the return of the Jubilee bracelet on the GMT Master 2. Interesting. Number 5, the ceramic bezel on the GMT Master 2. So speaking of the GMT Master 2, remember how the original version of the Pepsi one kind of looked purplish and pinkish, but not really red and blue? So I asked about that. I mean, what's wrong with the colors? Can't Rolex figure out the correct colors? You know, the candidate didn't really want to tell me, or did not know possibly why, but the only thing I got out of him or her is that Rolex actually sources the silica powder from a vendor in Japan. Number 6, Rolex is just like Apple. So I was told that at any given time, the new product development team is involved in at least 10 different new watch projects at the same time, and each project will take a minimum of 2 years. However, Rolex is very similar to Apple in the way that projects are very siloed or compartmentalized from each other, in order for them to make sure that not a single person has all the information about a specific project at one time. And the 7th and last nugget of insider info is that Rolex is actually experiences with directly owned retail model. This was a big surprise to me because historically you will know that Rolex, just like Patek Philippe, does not own boutique. They work with a wholesale model. They work with you know, authorized dealers and other retailer operated boutique, but they do not own their own boutique. However, Rolex knows that they are suffering from a lack of knowledge and a lack of training at the AD level, and this is unfortunately impacting their brand, and they are suffering from it. So recently I was assured, and this is 100% you know, confirmed, that Rolex is actually doing some trials with directly owned boutique, one in Dublin, Ireland, and one in Dubai apparently, so that they may eventually you know, expand this retail model in the future. And the candidate confirmed that these are tests and they are not joint venture, they are not retailer operated, they are not authorized dealers, they are directly owned and operated by Rolex. So in the end, were you surprised by any of these? Some of these really surprised me, like Rolex, you know, directly owning and operating some stores, or the involvement of the CEO in the design and the return of the Jubilee, for example. Some of them, you know, surprised me less, like you know, the secrecy of Rolex and how they work, like Apple. I mean, I'm not surprised about that. We read about the secrecy of Rolex all the time. Or, for example, not everything being in-house. We always read that Rolex does everything. Well, it does not. You know, I tried very hard to get as much information as I could. I wish I could have gotten some, you know, more you know, earth-shattering news from them, but that's what I got. This is always interesting to hear from someone who actually works directly at headquarters in a managerial position, so they know what they're talking about. Do you have any other nuggets of insider info from Rolex? Do you know someone who works there? Please share in the comments. Thank you very much for watching this type of video. It's a bit different from what I usually do. You know, don't forget to always ask yourself, what makes you tick? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.